Did a neighbour steal Sergeant Tibbs?
Was that neighbor racist?
Jeff, I don't think we can answer this ourselves.
We better bring in an expert.
We're doing a guest-enhanced recap of the final days of Sergeant Tibbs on this episode of So Much Crime.
So little time. You know, Dee, I want to just make a special statement right now. Normally, this is the point in the show where we talk about joining our Patreon. It's just patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. And I just want to make it clear that we will allow not only cat owners, not only dog owners, we will allow cats and dogs to join our Patreon. They're all welcome. I think cats come for the outtakes. I think dogs come for the early release episodes. I think hamsters come. Hamsters are here for the swag. I think iguanas don't really get into our Patreon. I don't know why. I don't know why we've offended the iguana community. But anyway, patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. All pets are welcome.
Indeed. Thank you. Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
I'm Jeff. And before we start, a quick warning.
Warning.
This episode is going to have spoilers for the final days of Sergeant Tibbs. We're going to discuss the whole series.
If you haven't listened yet, check out our preview episode on this show. It's the one before this one in your feed.
And we also put a link for the final days of Sergeant Tibbs in our show notes. All right, before we get to our discussion, let's do a quick synopsis of what this story is. Dee, tell us about this podcast.
All right, so this podcast came out in 2025. The host is Todd Bookman. There's only 4 episodes, and they average about 20 minutes per episode, so it's really a low commitment to get through this story. But Jeff, tell us the story as we hear it so far from episode 1.
Well, really, you should just go back and listen to our preview episode. But if you don't have time for that, quick version, Sergeant Tibbs. Sergeant Tibbs is a 19-year-old Maine Coon cat in Manchester, New Hampshire, has some health issues. One day, doesn't come home. His owner, Rose, is really worried that he just kind of went off somewhere to die, but he didn't, not yet. He was found by this woman, Debbie, and her daughter, Sabrina. They brought him to the vet, nursed him back to health, spent $6,000 on him, and then tried to find the owner. Debbie eventually does find the owner, Rose, but Debbie refuses to give the cat back. Rose goes on social media, uses this hashtag Justice for Tibbs, and then we were left with a sort of cliffhanger knowing that the story was going to kind of spin out of control. But like we said in the beginning, we don't feel qualified to talk about Sergeant Tibbs on our own. We decided to bring in an expert. Dee, who is our expert today?
Our expert and special guest, Megan Sarkisian, who is a noted cat enthusiast and knower of all things viral social media related and just a general experiencer of the internet, is coming to join us to give us her hot take on the final days of Sergeant Tibbs.
All right, let's get to our discussion with Megan. Megan, thank you for joining us. It is so great to have a scholar such as yourself. We can start anywhere we like. Where does anyone have a preference on where we start with this bonkers story?
I think because the episodes are so short and I listen to them, back to back to back, it pulls you in. I think I probably have a hard time distinguishing between, like, the first episode ends on not exactly a cliffhanger, but like
a little bit of a cliffhanger. Yeah.
It's going to be
Debbie's
going to
keep the cat
than you originally thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a time.
Yeah.
I'd love to start. I have a few questions for the group. One of them is, first of all, this is not a podcast that's within the true crime genre as they're organized on Spotify. And so I wasn't expecting so much crime to be occurring and so much awfulness.
There's
I know. There's actual,
police
like,
involved.
the police are involved. There's a murder or a death at least. Sorry, there's a death. That was unfair.
Alleged,
I saw what the head did there, Jeff. That was unfair. Yes, you're right. There was a death. And some unclear circumstances leading up to that death. But it's not true crime, seemingly.
What's the question?
Sorry. Would you consider it?
Question?
Would you consider it to fall under the true crime genre, I suppose is the question.
I don't think that was the intent. Like, in making it, it doesn't seem like the host, like the journalist's intent was in his pitch to his station, like, hey, guess what? I'm going to cover this crime in our community.
I think it's true crime in the sense that some of This American Life stories are true crime. They're not really, but they're like interesting stories with a little bit of mystery that sort of involve crimes, are a little bit whimsical, a little bit dark. We've listened to other shows. We always talk about Broomgate, but other ones where there isn't necessarily law breaking. This one there was actual
Fucking curling. Yeah.
law breaking. Like, where do you draw the line?
Well, okay. Let's dissect it here. Was it a true story? Ding, ding, ding. Was there a crime?
Check.
Ding, ding, ding. Does that not
Also
make
check.
it a true crime podcast?
You're technically correct.
Wait, what is it classified as?
It's personal stories. Let me pull up the rest of it. Documentaries, I think. Documentary, personal stories, and society.
Okay. I feel like there's a Venn diagram here that includes true crime. They just chose not to check that box.
I suppose that's my point.
Well, if you're let's think about search intent. So you're on your podcast platform of choice and you are like, what is the genre I'm interested in? Or you're doing a thing where you tap the genre, show me other stuff like this. And you're listening to criminal, whatever other series of true crime podcasts. And you tap true crime and you see The Last Days of Sergeant Tibbs. Are you like, this is exactly it? How did you know that I wanted this? Or are you like, what is this cat story doing here?
Well, I think that's a good point, but I also think as part of like our entire intent in this podcast is to bring true crime stories that maybe aren't out there to people. And I just find it interesting because yes, it doesn't fit in the exact mold, but who's making the mold?
On my podcast app, Castbox, my podcast app of choice, which I don't know, I've never actually used this feature, but it does have a popular with listeners of this show. It lists 5 podcasts in order from top to bottom: Coffee Break French, Grammar Girl, Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, Criminal, Oprah's Super Soul, and Jocko Podcast. I feel like that's basically saying it doesn't know what this is. But here
That's
are 5
funny.
other podcasts.
In the More Like This,
There's
in
a real-
Spotify,
yeah.
it's like Tumble Home, a Boundary Waters podcast. It's about canoeing, I think. Transmission Unknown. Something sinister happens in the Nevada desert, but it's science fiction. So there's that. Dan and Phil's Bangers. I don't know why that's there. Songs by Dan and Phil.
A playlist?
And Jurassic Minutes podcast, reviewing the Jurassic films 1 minute at a time. Holy shit, I'm so bored.
We
The
should
idea
do
of
a...
that.
I have an idea for a spin-off podcast. We talk about the Jurassic Minutes podcast 1 minute of their podcast at a time.
Seems like a natural
Did you
extension.
listen? Was that one of those times where you stop listening to the words that I'm saying?
Yeah, when you said Jurassic Park movies 1 minute at a time, I locked in.
Yeah, you didn't finish the... Anyway, my point being, it's not very clear that this is true crime, and yet I feel like there's so much in here. And I know it is a 4-episode, like, it's short. I wanted more. This is a podcast and I wanted more about it. I felt like they didn't do enough. And I saw why they didn't do enough, but there was elements that I was like, wait a second, we haven't covered Debbie and Sabrina. What about their, like, I don't remember. Did I miss it? They're like, who's their community? What was their community support like? Did they just have none?
Who was patronizing the business?
Yeah.
Who was their clientele?
And like, did just everyone go away? Like, we heard the bad side. We heard about Debbie only taking cash for rent in certain circumstances. We heard this insane account of Debbie and Sabrina going after young lads with a scissors at the wake of a tenant's mother.
It was the hospice gathering. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of things were said and then it was just left there. We're just going to say that and then we're moving on.
I was happy they dove a little bit deeper into the was the cat dead or not when it arrived at the shelter. Because that seems to be a pretty key part of the story. Did they kill this cat and then bring it to the shelter after it had been dead for a while? And if so,
Right, and say it had died.
yeah, why are they lying about that? Are they actual monsters? Did they hex the? I said this to my wife. I said, like, here are the high notes of the story. She said they cursed that cat. They put some type of spell on that cat.
They're not Etsy witches.
They run a Myths and Maiden shop.
But why would they curse the cat? Why wouldn't they curse her? Like, what? Why would they seem to care about the cat enough to spend $6,000 on him?
You can spend $6,000 on a cat in 10 minutes at the vet.
I know, but they did it.
Wait, let's pause here.
Mm-hmm.
Megan,
All right.
you have
Kodak.
cats.
I do have cats. I have 2 cats.
You've taken them to the vet before.
I have taken them to the vet.
Am I wrong about that? Like $6,000 at the vet for a cat, especially like an old cat, I feel like isn't that big of a deal.
Right. I think a 19-year-old cat who we know from was it an autopsy, a necropsy,
Mm-hmm.
both,
Yeah.
had some health issues going on. And if they're going to a vet that is not, I don't know, the cat's primary care vet, doesn't have records of what is going on with the cat, like nothing to work from, starting from nothing. I mean, $6,000 is a lot, but it also feels plausible.
It's insane.
I can't imagine.
For a cat you just met that
like
you think
cats
looks
a
like it's
lot.
about to die.
And
he's old.
I can't imagine arriving at a vet with a cat who, according to them, they believe to be in terrible shape, great distress, and spending $6,000 on it. Maybe the shop was really profitable.
I mean, they did have biker ferries.
But
You're really stuck on the biker ferry.
the biker ferry community alone.
Look, I have spent a lot of time in these shops, possibly bored. Like when we were in Monterey a few weeks ago, there was right on the main street on Cannery Row, there was one of these shops. It was actually, we went to 3. We went into 3 shops that sold crystals and incense and all that stuff. And you know, how many times can you pick up these little rocks and be like, oh, hematite, oh, like rose quartz, oh, like
They're minerals.
doesn't
I think also a thing that, and this may have just been like a personal annoyance, is in Debbie's recounting. She's so insistent. We saw this cat. He's in bad shape. You see an old cat. I believe that you could be like, oh, you look kind of rough. Like, okay. For her to be so insistent, he had cancer. I looked at this cat and I saw he had cancer. Then what are all the tests for, girl?
Yeah.
Why spend $6,000 if you know that this cat has cancer?
Did your cat hear Megan talking about a cat with cancer and get upset?
She's like, we're just old. We still have good years left. Yeah, I don't know. So Megan, you've never rescued a 19-year-old cat off the street and then dropped $6,000 at the vet on one?
I can't say that I have.
I don't.
I've met old cats.
Is 19 a record?
Hung
like,
out with some old
I don't know
cats.
if I've known a cat older than 19.
That's an old cat. That might be a record.
When my dog was about 6,
And who looks kind of tough.
Yeah. When my dog was like 16 and we just like walked in the door at the vet, like that was $500 just to walk in the door. Like it was guaranteed. There was nothing they were going to do that was going to be below that. Anyway, can I ask you both? I finished this podcast and I was like, I want to be on Rose's side. I think I'm on Rose's side because Debbie, I feel like, comes off as somewhat unlikable and potentially racist, but I know she would say she's not. Do you think this was like balanced? What's your feeling on Rose versus Debbie here?
I think they left a lot for the listener to decide. You know, I think a lot of podcasts we hear, it's kind of clear how the host is viewing people. And I don't think we got that here, which I think is likely the right move with a 4-episode podcast. It's just telling both sides of the story. I feel like there were so many little parts kind of left in, and if you didn't listen for them or if you didn't notice them, I think it's very easy to see Debbie and Sabrina as absolutely 100% the villains here. I don't think it's as clear cut as that.
Megan, what do you think?
Given like the information that you're provided and based on what each of them say, what each of them does, I think Rose is presented as like the more sympathetic of the two parties. I think there are parts where the host talks about talking to Debbie and Sabrina together, and Sabrina will be beginning to speak or beginning to tell a story, and Debbie will like interject. And he says at one point, oh, I don't know if this was her protecting her daughter or her just wanting to have a say in this. But I thought that was like another interesting, I don't know, layered dynamic there. So you're presented with a lot of information about each of them. It was easier for me to feel sympathy for the woman who lost her cat.
Sure.
But did she not create that? Like, she created that by posting this and being like, I am the victim here. Rally behind me, because the person who owns the shop is not the victim. I am the victim. And she did that immediately, which makes me question the reliability maybe of the narrator. Because even there was a point, I think it was in episode 2, when Rose is on like this, she's kind of updating her fans or her following or whatever, and she's obviously doing either a video blog or whatever the thing is, and she's recording it and saying like, it's this big emotional recounting of the story and of Sergeant Tibbs and how much he means to her, and then there's this sharp pivot of click to subscribe and follow along with the story. Like, her voice pivots and does that. So in the midst of all of this emotion, it's like, subscribe, be my follower, follow me on this. And like, I couldn't help but say, oof, that's just left in there. That was left in there for a reason.
There's this race element to that as a like intrinsic part of the story. If those roles were reversed, if it was the white South African woman who was originally the owner of Sergeant Tibbs and the black woman in Manchester, New Hampshire, who finds the cat, believes the cat has been mistreated, has been in an unsafe home, and was sent out to die, nurses the cat back to health for 3 weeks while trying to find the cat. Then when she finds the owner, she decides she doesn't want to give it back because she thinks it's an unsafe place for that cat. I feel like I would have felt a lot differently about it. I feel like I was definitely like brought my own biases here. Like, there's a version of the story where Debbie saved this cat for a few weeks. Like, she's the hero of the story in a way. Is that?
Or so she says, because we've no idea if, like, was Sergeant Tibbs doing okay when he was with Debbie?
He could have been dead for weeks. Yeah. Like,
eating a lot of chicken livers.
What's with the chicken livers, by the way?
I don't know. Do they have?
Seems like such a specific.
Maybe they have magical properties.
Who's gonna feed him?
It would not even be my like fifth option.
Where?
For a like, I found this cat. They're doing poorly. Why don't I just scare up some chicken livers? Try that out.
That would be your fifth. What's option 1 to 4? Like normal cat food?
I don't even know that it would be fifth. It would be 14th. Truly. You have to go pretty far down the list. Yeah. And try some other livers first.
And like, even, feeding the cat 4 times a day. I don't know. I know. I do know what you mean though, Jeff, about like the difference of the story. Like, would it be different? I also would challenge that to like, is it about the race or is it about the money? Because it's very clear, I think, from the podcast that Debbie and Sabrina have more disposable income. More disposable income, and they're able to like pay $6,000 for like a cat they find on the side of the road that they think might be dying.
Sure. Yeah. That's
so
a good point.
Is that really the factor as opposed to race? Although that snippet from the protest, it's hard to ignore it. When Rose claims Rose claims that Debbie has whispered something into her ear.
Yeah, and there's like video of Rose reacting, right? Like, we can't know for sure what she said.
Say it louder. Yeah.
And then there's the Sonia story, the hospice gathering story, where it sounds like she said some potentially racist things and came at them with scissors.
I mean, that is such a bonkers story that I was like, this needs to be given more airtime. Like, if this is the case, then this is like showing repeated behavior. This is showing that this is how she reacts when she gets annoyed.
Whereas the other, like...
Annoyed, my God.
The other background we get on Rose
Straight to the scissors. Sorry, that's not funny.
We hear about her at this protest in Boston, like this anti-Nazi protest. I mean, the other thing that you alluded to was Rose and her kind of command of the internet and her use of social media. And like, there's also another version of the story where like, that's the thing that drives me nuts. And it's like, oh, like she is mobilizing the worst of the internet to come out and review bomb this store, you know, destroy this person's small business, make her life miserable. You know, she gets these threats. And again, is Rose responsible for that? And maybe, I mean, she posted that on the internet.
I don't think someone who posts something on social media who has no concept that it'll go viral or that it'll gain traction would, but it seems like Rose was pretty savvy.
Has a sense that it might.
And so it feels like she did. It feels like that she got it out there in front of people. She wanted that impact. She wanted Debbie and Sabrina to feel it. And I also kind of wonder if she wanted to feel like a victim in this. Maybe she did leave Sergeant Tibbs out and say, look, like if you want to come back here, you come back here. But if you need to go somewhere to be with yourself in a bush and die, that's fine too. Like maybe that is what she did. And she doesn't see that as being harsh or being unkind. She felt like that might be what Sergeant Tibbs wanted. She was the one to know him best.
I will say, as a cat owner, there's a part of me that's very judgy about people who have indoor-outdoor cats.
A lot of people on the internet are judgy about this too.
Megan, what's your take on this?
This really could have backfired.
Are your cats are fully indoor?
My cats are fully indoor, but growing up, I had cats that were indoor-outdoor, and you know it varies by cat, and there absolutely were cats that we had that we would not see for a couple days, but they would come back. Like they know where they're getting fed. It's possible that neighbors may have fed them too and been like, you're an outside cat, but they always came back. I don't have anything as dramatic as this story, but now I think both of my cats are soft indoor cats that would get their butts kicked by the cats that live in the neighborhood. And I don't know that I feel judgy about it, but I do say out loud in my car as I drive by a cat just at large in the neighborhood, like, go home. So yeah, I feel some feelings about it, but I would not say that I feel like the owners of those cats should not have those cats.
The people who live 2 doors down from us will stand at the end of their driveway with their 2 cats on leashes, and the cats just sit there looking like they want someone to just take them out. Like, please just swerve your car over and kill me.
At what point so that conversation, the like recounting of the conversation between Rose and Debbie happens at the end of the first episode. Mm-hmm. So they're talking, this is my cat. Okay, you found my cat. They end the conversation and it is Rose's impression, I'm getting my cat back.
Yes.
Something happens between the end of that conversation and Debbie saying, actually, no.
Right. Debbie goes to Rose's house to meet her and say she has her cat. Which
why would she do that?
Yeah, why would she do that?
Why the change?
If they were so close in proximity that they needed to get a warrant to make sure that, you know, Rose had to stay away from Debbie and Sabrina.
It sounds like they lived practically like within a couple hundred feet of each other, right? Or at least the shop
it was within 300 feet was the restraining order.
Right.
Wouldn't they have seen her before?
Maybe. I will say the neighborhood cats, there's neighborhood cats in my neighborhood. There's some that I see these cats a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know who they belong to because I only ever seen them running across a rooftop or across the road.
No, but she gets the address. She knows like where she has to go.
Wait, what's your question?
My point, I think, is that like this whole Debbie wasn't going to give the cat back because of race. That race was the biggest part of this. It seems to me, I don't know distance very well, but like the shop and the house are real close together. So surely she had seen who lived in the house before she went to it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that we know. So wait, is it, or maybe I missed this. Was the implication that this was when she realized that Rose was black and that's why she didn't want to give the cat back?
It was never mentioned. But at the protest, seemingly it was Debbie that said, I'm not giving you your cat back because you're black.
Who says that?
I don't know.
What a strange thing to say.
But also if Sonia had filed a police report because of Debbie and Sabrina's outrageous racist behavior.
Because of this assault.
Yes, at the hospice gathering. That's like, that provides like a pattern that there is in fact race does come into it.
Do we know how that story surfaced?
Sonia came forward, but apparently there was a police report, but I think it was dropped when COVID came. It was deemed that there was nothing they could do. I don't know. No, they said because the thought was because people were from out of town in Chicago, it would be too hard to get the witnesses back.
They wouldn't be able to interview everyone or gather the information they wanted.
It's just a big, I don't know, it feels like a big question mark because like one impacts the other. I think one, if like a whole house full of people witness the, like if it's as outrageous as we hear about it here in this podcast, I think that gives a reasonable evidence that likely it is what she said to Rose. That's what I think.
I don't know.
Which turns everything on its head. And this, I think complicated would be the word to describe this podcast for me, because I feel like it doesn't fit neatly into anything. There's no clear answers to any of the questions. And maybe that's what the whole point was. Maybe the point was to, I don't know. I just feel like the whole thing is complicated because it's so hard, like who to believe. But is that not just the case of the three sides to every story? Maybe that's what they're trying to play out here.
Yeah.
It seems like such a simple, like if you were to explain what this podcast is about, like on its face, you're like, well, this woman loses her cat and then it's found by a neighbor who refuses to give it back. The cat dies. That's telegraphed by the title. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Because you receive all this information, but it doesn't exactly all fit together.
No, like I think both of you texted me separately or maybe mentioned it to me separately being like, didn't see race being a factor in this podcast when I started it. And I was like, me either. Yeah. Like that really took a pivot. And
I thought it was about a cat. I thought it was just about a cat.
I know.
Oh, small New England town, lost cat community board.
I will say, having been to Manchester and having spent a lot of time in New Hampshire, also, I think that's part of why I thought that, because my experience with New Hampshire is, they said 90% white. I would have said 99% white. I did want to share, I don't know if either one of you did this, I went and looked up the Myths and Maidens shop on Google Maps and read some of the reviews.
Oh, no.
I wanted to read one of them that I thought was interesting. So there's obviously reviews that are from well before any of this happened. But this happened in 2024. June 2024. So there's a bunch of reviews from before any of this happened, but there was one review that definitely was a part of this kind of internet mob that I just thought was interestingly phrased. Mm-hmm. So you think about what people saw. So people saw this sort of like Justice for Tibbs movement, and they were like, we're gonna review bomb this store and hurt this woman where it counts. And some of them, and I read some of them where they're basically just like, this woman stole a cat. Like that was basically the review of the shop. Mm-hmm. But this one took a different angle, and I wanted to share it. This is from someone named Nicholas Storazuk, who has 110 reviews, so didn't just create an account to do this. It's a 1-star review on Google Maps, identifies himself as a local guide, and he said, I'm not sure where to start. I'm broken. I've been perusing the store for months out of curiosity, and thankfully was not subjected to the level of hatred I experienced within these walls last week. I would have never come back to experience more. I brought my friend Kaylee with me, who happens to be a person of color. Bear in mind, I've never had a bad experience as a white male, so I guess I took my privilege for granted. Upon getting to the counter, Debbie, Debbie, the store owner, was acting a bit haphazardly and reckless. I asked her if she was okay, reminding her of the times I've enjoyed seeing her, and she decided to say, I don't have anything to talk about with those people in my store. I wanted to freak out and put that woman in her place, but I decided that it was my fault for assuming Debbie would treat my friend the same way she treats me for looking like her. I got Kaylee out of there ASAP and left the merchandise. Please beware. I'm still traumatized by this event. There's a lot going on in that review. I feel like
there's so much going on in that review.
There's an implication that he was a longtime browser, or peruser, as he says, of this store and had something of a friendly relationship with Debbie. I presume he knew that this was all going on. Like, I feel like this is a creative writing exercise.
I don't know. I feel like does this like this review, this podcast, like is that like not the crux of it all? Is like how social media took this to a new level. How like if this happened, like what would this have looked like without social media? You know, if it happened in the 90s or in the my mum always says noughties and I always say noughties and then I feel like people look at me like I don't know, what do you guys say, like aughts? So like what would it have looked like before social media, and how different would it be, and would there have been so much effort, would there have been so much outrage about it? It's kind of hard to know. And it feels like, say, if you're saying like that review is like an exercise in creative writing, is that just like another component of here? Like someone can leave a review, it can sound fantastic and it can sound really realistic, and yet it's hard to know how reliable that review is.
As a reader of reviews, how do you approach things like this? I think definitely you look at the number of reviews, you look at an average, you look at most recent.
I mean, I think it'd be hard if you see a flood of reviews that are all about like a cat stealer who's racist. You're going to be like, Jesus, not going there.
Yeah.
But like when we do the bad reviews of the best reviewed restaurant, I feel like the joke with that is that these are inarguably great places that everyone likes. And there's one person out there who had a miserable experience. And that to me is funny.
But very recently, Jeff, when we had Stacey on, your bad review of a good restaurant, the bad review was actually saying that the restaurant had QR code that you scan, you leave a good review, and then you get a free appetizer.
It wasn't a good review. You leave a review and you get a free appetizer.
Oh, yeah. You leave a review and you get an appetizer. And so, and I saw that when I was on my road trip this summer, a place that we stopped at and we were like, oh my God, the reviews are so good. And you stop, and if you scan the QR code and leave a good review, has to be 5 stars, you get a free sticky bun. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense to why when we were looking for somewhere to eat, we found this place that had unreal reviews that looks like my mother was like, this is it.
Well,
every
high
review
pitch
is
laugh.
like incredible sticky buns.
Yeah.
but also, if you leave a review of So Much Grime, So Little Time, you will get a free appetizer, maybe a sticky bun, maybe a mozzarella stick, maybe, I don't know, some nachos.
Who are you sending these to?
A nacho. I can send a nacho in the mail.
A singular nacho.
One frozen mozzarella stick.
Someone else's plate.
Some assembly required.
I don't know. I think it's kind of hard. It's like everything. It's like, damn it, social media. You just like mess with everything.
And the ability of social media. So you look at these reviews. I guess this could be true for any place. And I know that this has been the case for plenty of businesses that, you know, have been fairly or not targeted for this like review bombing. And you're sort of like, okay, well, would I have gone to this place anyway? What is the alternative? Like, is there a competing crystal shop?
Oh, good question. Is there?
That someone's going to go to and have the people leaving these reviews. And this is the same thing, like with social media, you can, like, things can get just algorithmically carried to other places where this is in a pre-social media time, this is something where you lose your cat, you would put up signs, you might go to your neighbors' doors and let them know. You may go to, you know, businesses and talk to people and say, oh, has anyone seen my cat? Here's a picture of them, whatever.
Particularly if your cat has been known to be in their backyard.
Right. They would know, right. They would know what this cat looks like. But then you post on social media, probably both of you have this experience as well. Not everyone that I'm friends with on social media lives within 10 minutes of me. So there are potentially people miles and miles away that never have gone to this store, never will go to this store, who now have the ability to write whatever
Can I just say, there are 5 other crystal shops in Manchester, New Hampshire, including a place called...
Competitive market.
the Sister Witch Company, where
a thriving scene.
the first review, I love this. This is so great. This is by someone named Cheryl Lynn Conway. And it says, I took my granddaughters here and wow, we all loved it. The entire place is eye candy. I don't know if she knows what eye candy usually means. They even have a craft table and someone comes in to teach crafts classes. Remember, this is a woman with her granddaughters. The owner was delightful, really great with my girls, informative and fun. Also, the tattoo place is in the back. They were also very nice. I want to believe that this woman brought her granddaughters to this crystal shop and got them tattoos.
She's like, where do you want to go? And they were like, there.
She's like,
let's get matching tattoos, Grandma.
Eye candy. Let's just get that tattooed on their foreheads. I want that to be the case.
That's so funny. The other thing with Debbie that, like, I think
good reviews
we have to, like, a little bit discuss on with the race element is basically how she was so shocked that anyone could dare call her racist because people who work for her or that she works with are from, you know, all over the world, all different ethnicities. And I was like, this is like I couldn't possibly be homophobic because I know homophobic people, or sorry, I know gay people. And you're
not even some of her best friends.
Yeah. You're just like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works, buddy. I hate to tell you.
A woman who's never heard the phrase power dynamics. Some of my favorite tenants are Black. So.
Yeah.
I also do think, though, want to go back to Rose and say, I don't know. I didn't find her overly believable either. Like, I didn't think she was a reliable narrator. I think, like, this whole, oh, Cody's going to tell you, I watched so many interrogations and something isn't quite right with how Sabrina's recalling this, like, event. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
She's listened to a lot of true crime podcasts and she knows.
But from listening to, like, 2 minutes of someone speaking, you can be like, no, definitely. Because I saw this one time before. If you, like, cross your legs and cough at the same time while you're getting investigated, that means you're lying. Like, that's like similar.
Body language expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? It's clear how Rose sees herself in this situation. Like she sees herself as like the wronged party, the injured party. She is the one who had a cat, then does not have a cat rather suddenly, in a way that she, you know, especially in the last episode is still processing, is sort of freshly processing to like not have been present with her cat at the end of his life, which is something I don't know if she expected to have, but something that she probably would have wanted to have had. It's less clear to me how Debbie and Sabrina see themselves. Do they see themselves as like possible saviors?
Oh, they see themselves as
cat,
victims in this.
correcting some wrong?
I think.
Did they see themselves as victims as they were paying $6,000 to have tests run on this cat?
No. Saviors.
At what point do they see themselves like that?
I'd say as soon as the protests started, they switched to victims in this story. I think it's a good point though, like, because I actually think both like parties, I think Rose and Debbie and Sabrina, I think they both see themselves as victims. The three of them appear to have no ability to self-reflect and say, you know what? I shouldn't have put that post out. That wasn't the way forward. Like, the way would have been to go up and be like, hey, can we talk? Because I think there was a miscommunication, which is clearly what this whole thing has to have been about. Like, clearly, because why would Debbie go to the house if she wasn't going to give the cat back? Like, it just makes no sense to me. And I think the same with Debbie and Sabrina. Like, at no point does Debbie say what they did and the way she acted, even if her intent is good, was, you know, she should reflect and say, like, I could have potentially dealt with this in a way that wouldn't lead my neighbor to start, like, a war with me on social media and, like, kill one of my businesses. But everyone just seems to be like, no, I'm still the victim. I did nothing wrong. Nothing, not even a little bit wrong. Baffling.
But I think that's where when Sabrina said some things and Debbie was like, no, like we actually found the cat here. I want to make sure you understand it. Like some of those sort of corrections, I feel like was Debbie. Like Debbie is sort of seems to be a full participant in this podcast, which may be more a factor of like our host Todd and like his sort of like journalistic approach that he was able to get people on both sides to participate. But I also feel like Debbie would not have talked to him as much as she talked to him and kind of invite him in and share all this with him if she didn't feel like she was the victim. At the same time, I think she knows she did something wrong here. She wants to make sure she and Sabrina have the same story. She knows they don't.
Do you think that also is like her trying to limit the damage or the liability that she could be feeling like, okay, well, if we tell the story, if we say that the story happened in this exact way, there's no way we're responsible for any bad element of this.
I mean, I think they spent $6,000 on this cat and did actually seem to give it a lot of attention and care. And then the cat died. And then they were like, oh, shit, this looks bad for us. Because we have to get it out there, this narrative that we fed this cat chicken livers 4 times a day. Because like another version of the story is we found this cat and we delivered it to the shelter stiff as a board. And that can't be the story.
Just focusing in on that, like the discrepancy between the story where Sabrina says, oh, we found him out front, and Debbie rings up to say, no, it was actually out back. Or was it the other way around? Whichever.
Whatever.
So the discrepancy is where they found him. Not like just either in front of the building or behind the building. What difference does it make whether it was in front of the building or behind the building? Is it just that, oh, your stories don't match, so haha, we caught you? This is how we work with NCIS. Like, is that the play here? Like, is that what she has fear over? Because I just feel like Debbie is a control freak. Like, she didn't even get a lawyer. She represented herself in the case. I feel like she talks over her daughter. I think you mentioned this, Megan. She makes sure she's involved in every conversation. I think at one point Sabrina gets slightly emotional and she was like, I'll take over because you're going to have tears. Like, all right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, like just no tears coming out of you. We can just move on with the facts of the story. I think it's just very clear to me that she is a control freak, and I don't know if the actual elements are what make a difference. I think it's as a whole. She wanted to control the narrative because she's a control freak.
I think that's probably right, but I'm looking back at the transcript now because that's jumped out at me too. Like, why does it matter? And so that point, this is in episode 4. So Sabrina says she and her friends are outside dealing with a dead car battery. And then Sabrina says, yeah, he had come out of the brush. We were confused because we heard a hacking noise and we didn't know what it was. And we looked behind us and there's a cat sitting there. And then Todd Bookman says, Sabrina then points to a spot in front of Myths and Maidens. It was right here, she says. And then Todd Bookman says, when they first told me the story in their echoey apartment, Debbie told me they found Tibbs in the back, which made sense to me. Tibbs was known to hang out behind Myths and Maidens. It's essentially Rose's yard. But now Sabrina is pointing to the front of the building. I give her another chance to clarify. Like, he spends a lot of time on this point. He says, so it was right there. She says, okay, on this side. I wasn't sure if it was on the back side or this side. It says something's not adding up here, but I didn't say anything. It was a weird comment, I thought, by him. I'm curious, like, because he doesn't really show his cards. He doesn't really say what he thinks is happening. Like, he alludes to something nefarious.
Well, I think between that and when...
But he really is just collecting.
Yeah.
He was, but actually now that you mention it, like he does stop and pause on that point more so than he does on, say, the point where... click and subscribe to hear the rest of my emotional journey through like losing my cat. But the other component that he focuses in on, I think it's the end of episode 3 when he's reading the police report and he's walking up the stairs to the 4th floor and he gets to the 3rd floor and he freezes in the spot when he sees that it was noted that Tibbs was so cold and had already had rigor mortis had already set in. I don't know if that's the case with the cat.
Yeah.
That it was deemed that the cat couldn't have died within a few minutes, that the cat must have been dead a few hours at least. And so this element of like, this is the big part of it. And then, yeah, as you said, Jeff, like pausing to like really hone in on the discrepancy of the location. It's like, is he getting from his like interviewing a bit of a sense of victim versus, I don't know.
Sorry, you're right.
POS.
That's in episode 3. The part I read was also in episode 3. It's actually those parts are back to back.
Oh, okay.
It's the front of the store, back of the store, and then immediately it's the police report freezing on the stairs, rigor mortis, and that's the end of episode 3 that leads into 4.
Oh yeah, because they give the police report over.
Uh-huh.
And they give it over. So again, then it counteracts what I'm just saying, because it's the same thing with Debbie going to the house. And even what they said about Rose's backyard is basically the back of the shop. Yeah. I can't fathom how they hadn't seen each other before. It just doesn't make sense in my head.
Or that you hadn't seen this cat to be like, oh, this is the cat who hangs out.
But yeah, he said like Sergeant Tibbs was known to hang out there.
It does look like, so I don't know exactly where Rose lives, but I'm looking at the satellite view of where Miss and Maiden is. And it's kind of a weird like residential neighborhood that this shop just sort of sits on this corner. And these are very narrow streets where it's like each street has like one house or apartment building structure. It's super narrow and people don't really have backyards. So I don't really understand what they were talking about.
See, you want more. You want more of this podcast, and that doesn't usually happen with us, with true crime podcasts.
Do we have reviews? Do we have Reddit reviews of this podcast?
Let me read you a Reddit review that I think is so funny. It's from Aggravating Gas 7221. It's from 6 months ago.
Wait, what's the name again? Aggravating Gas 7221. Okay. Says, what did I just listen to? It's really well researched and told. And the cat is the only likable character by the end. Which I think is just, I don't know. I feel like very true for me. I didn't think anyone was that nice. I like
the host.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was fantastic. I didn't believe a thing any of these people said. That was from Affectionate War 7782. One Eye Annie says, I just finished this one. I kept going back and forth trying to decide whose side I was on. Once I saw a picture of what the cat looked like, well, I felt like I wouldn't give the cat back to Rose either. They never did say why he was missing hair down his back, did they? I'm not saying the mom and daughter were right. They were also sketchy.
They did say, or right, at least the host said that he was not able to groom himself well, and she had like shaved mats off of him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and this
true.
was something that like stuck out to me because I've met old cats, I've seen Maine Coons, and you can absolutely imagine a gigantic cat of advanced age having a hard time grooming himself.
I mean, they give themselves a bath with their tongue. It's gross.
Maine Coons are massive.
They're gigantic cats. This was, to me, also one of the more upsetting details in his veterinary records. He weighed 17 pounds or something at his last, like, healthier, alive checkup.
A live checkup.
And when he died, he weighed 8 pounds or something. And so to think about that was a real... There is a comment on the last episode that is something that struck me in terms of how Debbie would talk about him, because she would say the cat, the animal, it, whatever. And the comment itself does say, use the cat's pronouns. I don't know what the cat's pronouns were, but at this point, the name of the cat.
It's Sergeant. Sergeant Tibbs.
You've put some respect on this cat. She's gently fed him chicken livers over a period of weeks.
So many chicken livers.
But maybe she renamed.
Maybe
she renamed the cat. No, because she doesn't believe anyone dies. His fighting spirit is probably gone within her. I don't know.
Okay.
I will say Danny Gua message or reviewed the final episode saying, finally, I'm wanting your opinion on this. Finally, a series that captures the essence for me of S-Town. Do you remember listening to S-Town?
That's it.
That is not something I would have. Did you listen to S-Town, Megan? This, like,
I
S-Town
did.
is not a podcast I would like bring up here as like a
No.
comparable.
I think it's comparable in that it's a podcast that has people in it.
Any cats?
And tells a story.
Any sergeants or majors?
No, full stop. A podcast with people in it.
I will leave others to comment on the subjects of this podcast, but the overall work and care put into this is exceptional. Great work, Todd Bookman. I don't disagree with that, actually. I thought
Yeah.
Todd did a great job.
Mm.
All right. Would you all recommend this?
I would 100% recommend it to a friend. I have done already. Megan is one said friend.
I think I would recommend it. It's as podcasts go, pretty low commitment.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous given its title, like, oh, this is not a podcast about a magic cat that lives forever. This is going to be a bummer. And it was, but not exactly for the reasons that I thought it would be.
Do you reckon Tibbs was just
I would
like,
still
fuck
recommend it.
this, I'm out. Yous are all crazy. Batch it. I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think this was a fascinating, well-made podcast. I like that it was so short. I do wish. I mean, I would have taken another hour of this story.
I know.
What did you make of, I think this was toward the end of the 4th episode, of the host saying, you know, there are a lot of possible ways to tell this story. The podcast that this isn't tells about this angle on it. The podcast that this isn't tells this other angle. And so you have this sense, and maybe you were already thinking of it yourself, but he presents it. These are the stories that aren't being told here. Is this just a public radio journalist talking about narrative podcasts?
I feel like when
Is it something else?
the shows we cover run a real like wide spectrum of host styles, of like journalism, maybe like biases and integrity, and I wouldn't want them all to be like this. But this is a kind that I do like really appreciate and like. This is, I keep coming back to This American Life, where it's sort of like, here's a wild, wacky story, and we're going to throw some like curveballs at you. We're not going to make any judgments about it. We're going to kind of leave that for you to decide. Everybody's a little unreliable in the story.
True to life, I suppose.
Sure. It's true to This American Life, you might say.
Or just life, because there is life apparently outside of America, but whatever. I think that's an interesting thing to bring up. I feel like, as you were saying that, Jeff, about I wouldn't be happy if every story was like this. I agree, and I wonder whether the low stakes, and sorry for cat lovers, was that the kind of main victim that we haven't really spent too much time talking about was Sergeant Tibbs. He's the one that died, and if this was a person who had been abused potentially or kidnapped potentially, and yet we still had so many questions for the podcast itself that we felt like they didn't address, I think I'd be pretty annoyed. But because maybe the victim is Sergeant Tibbs and is a cat, does this make me sound like a horrible human being? But it's how I feel. That like the stakes are lower, and so you're left saying, wow, I actually really enjoyed it, and I have so many questions. I kind of just want to talk to the podcast host and fill in some of the gaps, like if we could. But yeah, I'd be pissed if this was like one of our normal true crime stories.
I think that's fair.
You'd want way more.
Well, I'd need more coverage. Like who's backing Sabrina and Debbie? I need to know this. And
But
like,
it's a 19-year-old cat. The stakes are low. That's fair. I think that's fair. As a cat owner, I think that's fair. Megan, do you disagree with that?
yeah, we're no longer friends. I can see it from her face. She won't even talk to me in the morning.
Not because of the podcast. No, I think that is fair. I think that also the circumstances of the story. So this is not a cat that has been confined to the indoors for all of his 19 years, like wistfully looking out the window. This is a cat who has been allowed to roam, who has, gotten to explore whatever his range was, and then, gets old.
Happens to us all.
And who knows what exactly happens, and
Some of us quicker than
goes to the
others.
front of a store or the back, depending on, who you believe, what you remember.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's leave it there.
Oh my goodness. That's like basically as long as the podcast. We did the minute by minute for the final days of Sergeant Tibbs.
Megan, thank you for joining us. This was
Talk about
a
Thank
lot
you
of fun
so
having
much,
you
Megan.
here.
You'll have to come back again.
happy to be here.
All the cat podcasts, all the crystals,
All right.
all the New Hampshire.
All right. I only really know about one of those things.
Crystals.
I'll pull together some
Yeah.
recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Minerals.
Thanks so much, Megan.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. And please let us know what you think. Which side are you falling on? What did we miss out on? Tell us how we did, how that conversation went, and how it sat with you. And while you're there, rate us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell the people you meet. Reminder, we're a very small independent podcast, and it's great to get the word out and get the listenership up. Thanks so much for your support. Next time, did you enjoy our coverage of the final days of Sergeant Tibbs?
Well, we got the chance to speak to the host of that podcast, Todd Bookman from New Hampshire Public Radio.
On a special episode, we'll share that chat with you as we dive deeper into the story.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So little time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.